grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursuit of wealth.
Welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Wealth podcast. This is actually our first episode of 2026. We officially kind of have the content room put more back together at the new office. We've been here since like July of last year, and we just had our handyman fully get up the wall, got our TV mounted. We still need some decor on the back walls, but we're slowly but surely.
Yeah, it looks good.
Slowly but surely getting there.
2026, man.
What in what day? It's we're almost 2 weeks into the new year. It's
Yeah,
the like 15th or 14th today.
Yeah. I don't know what day it is.
I love this time of year because really for like the last 2 weeks, really the last like 3 weeks, week of Christmas and then a week before New Year's, it gives you the time to kind of reflect, slow down, reflect, see where you ended 2025, the year prior. And I think this is where, we talk about wealth building and saving money and being financially responsible. That all starts with like recognizing where you're at, so you can build on that. And so there's a lot of things that I'm kind of preparing for in 2026. A lot of things that I'm like nervous for. I don't know, maybe
a lot of changes coming.
A lot of changes. Yeah. And I think now more than ever, it's super, super important to get like your financial situation in order. I think, if you look at me and a buddy were talking on one of our runs the other day, and the gap between the wealth gap in the U.S. is really gotten out of control. Like, if you look at people, the last 5 years, let's take from like 2020 to 2025, the amount of like the cost of everything has gone up, and the people that are like, let's say that own assets or that have a higher income really haven't been too affected. Like, I personally haven't really changed a lot of my spending habits, even though, everything has gone up in price. But I know that a lot of Americans, like, if you didn't have assets, you felt a lot of pain over the last few years. Cause like, if you had stocks, if you had real estate, if you had gold, silver, anything that we'd say like is a hard asset or a equity in a company, all those valuations have gone up over the last 5 years. I mean, houses nearly doubled or more over the last 5 years. The stock market is at all-time highs. So like if you're diversified and had your money in these things, you felt like, honestly, the last 5 years have been kind of good.
Right.
Like, it's not been bad. But if you don't have any of those things, you're feeling like hopeless over the last 5 years, and that it's only going to get worse. You see the American dream's going away. You can't afford a house. Well, people are still buying houses. Majority of the time, though, they're selling a house and buying a house because they had an asset that they can leverage to now get into a bigger asset or a different asset.
Right.
It is the ones that don't have that foundation. They weren't invested in the market. They don't have those assets, that they're feeling a lot of pain right now. And the thing I want to stress is like, it's not too late. You can still get into it. But if you don't, the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to get even worse.
Yeah. And I'd say, like, speaking from experience, you got to be willing to be uncomfortable with it. Like, in my opinion, gone are the days that you're going to buy a home or an asset and have it be comfortable. Yeah. Like, you've got to have some discomfort there and be willing to either level up what you're doing to generate a little more income to make it comfortable, or be willing to live in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation for a short period of time until things level out. But that's the barrier to entry mentally that you've got to be able to deal with. And like, to your point, it's more important to do it now because it's just going to get harder in the next 5 years.
100%. And I think our generation, it maybe not even a generational thing. I think just in general, like us as human beings, it's become so much harder. And I think it's a lot of the pressure from social media. It's, in how we want things now. Like we can't delay gratification like we used to. I mean, you talk to like, our parents or grandparents, and it was like, dude, they just knew they didn't go buy new cars, or they weren't going to buy a house right away. They were going to work and save up and live in an apartment and do these things to then get it when they were 30 or 40, But now you look at everybody coming out of high school, the craziest, I don't know if I'd mentioned this on one of the other podcasts, but there's like a survey of like high school students, and it was like over 90% of the high school students thought they were going to make $1 million or more a year in income. Like they don't like that is the top 1%, and how hard you have to work and what you have to do to become that top 1%. I think we underestimate, and we just have this like expectation that, well, I can go buy the new car now because things are gonna be fine. Like I'll figure out how to make money. Like everybody my age is making money. We've lost touch with reality.
It's because everything they consume online is everybody's wins. It's the top 1% that has the 2 million followers that people are watching every day. Mm-hmm. They see them buy the new cars. They see them living the lavish lifestyle. And without dissecting how they got there, it looks like, yeah, I just posted some videos on YouTube and here I am.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm making millions and millions of dollars for doing a video for YouTube. And then your average person's going to look at that and be like, well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then they find out that's not really how it works.
Yeah. Well, and it could if you like stuck it out and you were consistent with it and you like actually obsessed over that thing. Mm-hmm. Like you could probably figure it out. But the problem is like, dude, everybody, if it doesn't work in the first 2 to 3, weeks, maybe days, months, like they're gone. They're off to the next thing because it looks like, hey, this shiny object over here, this guy's doing this now and this guy's doing this, and things are moving at such a fast pace that we're just not sticking with things like we used to. And maybe it's because like we just have more options than than the generations before us. Like there's so much opportunity out there that it's hard to kind of decipher what opportunity you actually want to do and be a part of. And so my worry is like I really want to use this podcast to really try to help people get into investing, figure out what they want to do in life, build wealth, whether that's, in the job that they like, maybe cutting back on work, spending more time with family. Like wealth means different things to every single person. And I think now more than ever, people need help with that. And yeah, so I'm hopefully we can be a voice of reason. And I'd love to get like questions from people in the audience of like their situation. And we won't disclose, people's information or names or anything. But I'd love to be able to kind of dissect people's information, give feedback. I had a buddy called me yesterday that's been struggling. I mean, he's been working for 5 years, growing a company, and still only making like $50,000 a year. And just like I had an hour conversation with him, and little things that like I was kind of able to help him with just from a surface level of like what I think is wrong. I think could really change his life if he took those tips. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times it's really beneficial. And I'm not perfect. Like there's tons of things I need to work on in our business. And it's really beneficial to have outside input because a lot of times you just get stuck in the weeds of what you're doing and you can't make the clear. It's pretty obvious from an outside perspective, but you can't see that perspective because you're just in the weeds with everything.
Right.
And so to get like a clear, not, there's no objective or like motivation for this person to sway you one way or another. I think to have somebody like that you can bounce ideas off of is really important. So I've always had a coach that's not invested in my business, that's not a part of what we're doing, is just a coach that's got outside perspective.
Right.
They can be like, hey, you're thinking of like the way you thought about this. Yeah, maybe that's right. But like, what about this? It's like, I didn't really think about that. Cause we get in these echo chambers of ourselves. When we have an idea, we do everything to justify that idea, that it makes sense. Like, when we want to start a new business, when we want to do, a new product or anything, like you're going to justify why it's a good idea. And you need somebody that's going to tell you why it's not a good idea. And you've got to prove that it is. Or else you just run off with these random ideas all the time that aren't good and nobody's telling you that they're not good.
Right.
And so anyway, I think hopefully we can be that voice of reason for people as we go through this year. Something I want to mention that I really want to start. I've been thinking a lot about it this year is I want to start a community with this group, like a Pursuit of Wealth community, because with AI and everything that's going on, like I feel like we are more detached socially than we've ever been. Like
I could see that.
actually like true social interaction. Yeah, we have tons of friends on social media, and we're on Instagram and Facebook all the time, and you probably feel more connected online than we ever have. But I feel like what I've noticed is like people are more disconnected in person than ever before. I think the average male doesn't even have like 3 or 4 friends that they could go to or talk to about finances or business or anything like that. And so I think it'd be really cool to start a community with this.
Yeah, and I think you kind of touched on it too. The cool thing about this podcast and what our vision is with starting a community and different things like that is I'm not putting us on the same level as like a Grant Cardone or a Robert Kiyosaki or some of these old timers is what I'll consider them. Very smart individuals, know what the crap they're doing, wrote books, all that stuff. We're not on that level, but at the same time, you have a lot of experience. You have generated quite a bit of wealth. Mm-hmm. I think my role in this is I play kind of like I'm on everybody else's level. I'm just starting kind of the wealth journey and making steps to getting into that. And so you're going to see kind of how that formulates, which makes this podcast in the community extremely relatable and realistic.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think there's power to be had in this podcast and with the community that we want to build, is because we can all grow together.
Correct.
And we're not looking at someone who has been doing it for 40 plus years and that's how they're rich, because that looks unattainable. For sure. They provide great tips and tricks and all of that stuff, but it took them 40 years to get there. And so it looks unattainable, but when you're growing with people and in the trenches with people, that's when it can become really fun.
100%. And methods change.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever they did during that time may not work now.
Right.
Whatever they did to acquire or obtain their wealth, their strategies may not work. So it's really cool to be in the trenches with other people that are actively doing it right now.
Right.
Like I'm by no means anywhere where I want to be. We've done okay, I would say, but I'm like, we still have so much more growth, and like we're going to be in the game actively doing investments and strategy and tax mitigation and all these things to build wealth over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And so I really want to, it's almost selfish. Maybe I just want more friends. Like I just want more friends to hang out with. And I really don't even I've actually struggled with this because I'm like thinking about what I want to spend my time on this year, focus points. One thing is the podcast. I have been flaky on this podcast for 2 to 3 years. I love doing it. It's really hard for me to justify doing it when I don't really make any money with it, and I make money doing other things. So I've just always leaned into, I want to do the podcast. It's enjoyable, but it is a selfish thing. Like I just enjoy having conversations and talking to people, but it doesn't bring me any money. So I've really struggled with making that a priority. But this year I'm actually Wednesdays. This is going to sound wild. I've been reading some books, and one of the books, I think it was 10X, or 10X is easier than 2X, but it talks about your calendar and how to structure your calendar. And you should have so many days off a week. And I look at usually I take Saturdays and Sundays off, but I'll work when things come in, but I don't really have a day off. I'm with family that day. I don't have a day during the week that I can be creative and do the things that I enjoy. And this year I'm going to make Wednesdays that day. Middle of the week, I went and got a massage this morning. I'm going to go get, a massage every 2 weeks. I'm going to get my hair cut every Wednesday.
Dang, I want on this.
Those are going to be my,
those are good.
This is going to be, and then I want my podcast to be it, because it's all the things that I enjoy doing and love that make me feel good, I want to just pack into Wednesday. And then I can know hey, if I have a meeting, cool, I have got Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday that I can take meetings, I can do appointments, I can do that stuff. But Wednesday, I'm going to try to hold sacred to myself. I'll go to a coffee shop, drink some coffee, and try to be creative. Plan what I want to do for podcasts, plan what I want to do for, I've been telling Kyle I want to do YouTube videos for a long time, but I've just never prioritized it. And I finally feel I'm at a point where I'm cool, I need to, and I want to prioritize these. And so hopefully with this, I'll get a better system on how we want to build a community, because the same thing with the community. I'm dude, I've wanted to do this for over a year, 2 years. I've talked to my life coach about it all last year, and he was why don't you do it? And I'm well, how do I make money doing it? And he's like, would you even care if you made money doing it? I'm like, no, not really. But I know that for me to be consistent, there's got to be some financial incentive. So I don't know. We'll kind of lay out some groundworks for that. And I'd want it to keep it pretty tight knit at the beginning. Like I really want it to be a group of guys or gals, that want to come together, talk about business, talk about finance, talk about, probably do like health stuff, like do a night where we go cold plunge and sauna and, where we do maybe like quarterly retreats, go up to Island Park, maybe go to St. George. My buddy Chandler Smith does something like this. He does one retreat a year. I've kind of seen how that's played out, and I've gone to him, and I'll continue to go to his retreats. I think they're awesome. And I love being around Chandler. But what I want is like a community that gets together more frequently so that it can be more impactful. Because we go to these retreats once a year, and I make some great relationships or connections, but it's like we never really talk after that. I wouldn't say we're friends. Maybe we comment on each other's Instagram posts, but then we don't see each other till that next year. I want this to be like, in my head, I'm just going to spit out everything I'm thinking in my head. But like, I would love a group that, we get together for like monthly dinners, and we go out to dinner. We just have a good conversation. And then it's like every 90 days, once a quarter, we rent a cabin in Island Park, and we get together and we talk about business strategy. We can bring in like CPAs. We can bring in people that can help us along our wealth building journey, and just be a group of guys that like, hopefully they even do stuff outside of the mastermind and the days that are all planned together, get together for Super Bowls and get together for these things. I think there's so much power in having a group of individuals that you feel like you can count on. That feels like a community, a true community.
Well, and I want to touch a little bit on what your coach asked you, because I think it's a really good principle. He asked you the question, would you care if you made money doing any of this? Mm-hmm. And I think that when you enter into a project, let's say this podcast or building this community, or in life, if you're pursuing a different opportunity, hoping or expecting to see immediate results financially, you will quit very quickly.
100%.
Because it just doesn't come that way. So the challenge is changing the mentality to be in kind of like what you said, where it's something fun that you're going to develop relationships over. You enjoy talking and doing this. The mental switch needs to change, and the money will just naturally follow.
Yeah.
And the money can be multiple different things. Let's say, hypothetically, we get a group of 20 of us together that consistently meet together with the goal of just hanging out, talking finance, no other motive.
Yep. Going
to dinner and hanging out. That is naturally, because of who we're surrounding ourselves with, what we're talking about, that is naturally going to turn into some financial gain for some people in that group.
100%.
Whether it's you go into a partnership together with something that you both enjoy. If we're in sales, maybe it leads to someone needing to sell their house, for example. Like there's so many things that can happen if you're just doing it for the right reasons.
Yep.
Because then you stay consistent, and that is the key to it all. Consistency is the magic.
Yep.
Behind every successful person. It is just the sticking with it and doing it for the right reasons, and then everything will follow naturally after that.
I love that. And you're right. You're 100% right. I think so I try to self-reflect on this, and my life coach actually tells me not to do this because it's like, why does it matter? Why do you do things? I'm like, well, why did I do that? It's like, why does it matter? Like, just move on.
Right.
But so like this, I'm thinking like, why is it so hard for me to stay consistent with the podcast or to do that? And I say, now, because when I started any business, it wasn't that the business was going to make me money right away. They were all long-term games. So where did that switch for me? And I think the switch is like when you start making money, and there are activities that like when I started real estate, or I started, we've started a brokerage, started real estate, we've started a construction company, all these other things. I really didn't have money. Like I wasn't really making money, good money. So there wasn't a lot of risk, but now it feels more risky because I have something to lose. I have more upside doing other things that are at risk if I do something that doesn't bring in money.
Right.
And so when people think about, this goes back to like Alex Hormozi talks about this, but every piece on the board, on the chessboard, has an advantage. So no matter where you're at in your wealth building journey, starting a business, maybe transitioning careers, you have an advantage compared to somebody else. Somebody might look at like, well, dude, this person's farther ahead than me. Well, it is harder for them to pivot now Like it is harder for me to pivot and go into something new because I have 7, 8, 9, 10 years in this, I'm actually almost 8 years into my real estate journey. It'd be really hard for me to just leave real estate and do something else.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I wouldn't want to, but I'm like, dude, like, yeah, but for somebody else that doesn't have that, they're not invested that far into the business yet, or they're not really making good money. It's like, what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose.
Right.
The bottom is so much closer that you can be like, well, it's what? I go back to zero. I'm not very far from it.
Right.
So like, and that was actually my perspective when I got into real estate. It's like, what do I have to lose? Like, I live in an apartment and I'm pulling out a credit card to get my classes done. Like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right.
I couldn't do that. I can't take those same kind of risks now because we have a little bit more to lose. And so, not that I am making it an excuse for myself, because I'm not. I think I'm actually switched my mindset. I'm like, well, I've worked really hard to do these things that now I should spend time doing the things that I just love, regardless of money, that I just enjoy doing. And so that's, I think maybe that is the approach. Like right now, like maybe I don't even need to think about how to structure it financially. It just needs to be like, let's just do this for fun.
Yep.
And see where it goes. I think that's probably going to be the most genuine and organic way to go about it.
And I think if we do that and look back after a year of consistency, you'll be shocked of what it turns into.
Yeah.
And again, it's not monetizing it. Like we don't expect to make money by posting this video, right?
Yeah.
It's all in relationship opportunities with what we want to do.
Yeah.
And if we can do that and harvest those relationships organically and make them real, it will turn into something eventually.
100%.
Like, it's just how it works.
I needed this conversation today. I've been dwelling on this for like 2 weeks. After the new year, I'm like, dude, this is what I want to do, but I just, going back and forth trying to justify it for me. I'm also like almost 70 hours into a fast, 70 hours into my 86-hour fast, and I feel like I can be like, things are just clear.
Right.
I just feel like I'm actually thinking about things better. And so,
except for when your wife makes cookies.
Oh, they're like these peanut butter chocolate chip cookies last night. Peanut butter oatmeal chocolate chip.
Uh-huh.
Dude, they are to die for. And I just got out of I can't remember. I just got out of the shower or something. I came out to the living room and I smelled them. And I'm like, why is she putting cookies in the oven right now? And then, dude, the night before, first night dinner, she's just like, mind you, whenever she asks me where she wants to, where should we get dinner, it's Costa Vida or Thai food, and she knows that, and she doesn't hate both those, but she just gets burnt out on both those.
Right.
So, but then, first night I'm fasting, she goes, I think I'm gonna go grab Costa Vida for us and the kids. I'm like, you Costa Vida of all places, that's one of my favorites. And then last night she gets Olive Garden. I'm not a huge Olive Garden fan, but still, just smelling those foods, oh man, just really gets to you.
But you're thinking clear.
But I'm thinking clear, yeah. The side tangent, talking about my freaking torture I've been going through. But no, I would say if you haven't done a fast and you're trying to make decisions or think through stuff, I would encourage do a fast. The first 24 hours is tough. You just kicking your cravings. Your body just, when you wake up, you're like, I eat breakfast. And when it's lunchtime, I eat lunch. And you're trying to just ignore those things the first 24 hours. But after that, it's day 2, day 3, it's not.
Can you imagine me at 11 o'clock after starting a 24-hour fast?
You would be okay. The first day, you would be a grouchy sucker. But after day 2, I think you would actually surprise yourself on how well you'd do.
Yeah.
Your body would just be okay. You don't think so, huh?
11 o'clock hits, man, and I'm ready for lunch.
10:30 hits and Jace is down in the office freaking warming up his lunch. I'm like, dude, you woke up an hour and a half ago and had breakfast already. What are you doing? Or you don't actually eat breakfast normally, huh?
No.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you ate breakfast, you'd be a normal human being and eat lunch at noon or 1. But
it's technically my fast.
What time do you eat dinner?
5 or 6. Okay.
We still eat dinner at 5 or 6. I usually do a late lunch and I do a pretty small lunch. But anyway, fasting is, so actually on that, I posted about me fasting and kind of my thought process, because the first 24 hours is super hard. And I said, with business or with life, with fitness, anything, it's usually just, you think about the airplane analogy where the most effort is in is in takeoff. It's where it requires the most effort and energy. And with this, it's like that first 24 hours is kind of that takeoff. Once you get to like 48 hours, you're kind of in cruising altitude, and it's really not that hard to say no to food. And somebody commented on my post about that and is like, hey, that's super insightful. I agree. But sometimes I feel like the easiest part is getting started with something because you're excited about it. And the hardest part is like when you're actually in the thick of it and that excitement goes away. And I thought about that. I'm like, yeah, I agree. And that's why I think everything's everything's on different timelines. So I think about the effort it takes for a small propeller plane to get off the ground and get into cruising altitude is pretty, you have a propeller. It's not a lot of effort. There's not a lot of energy going into that. And so for that, you get past that takeoff phase pretty quickly in low energy. But on things that are bigger, like if you have a huge cargo carrier plane, military plane, it's got 4 engines on it. Like the amount of effort that needs to go in to get that thing off the ground is way more. So when I look at certain things in life, like that 24 hours, when I compare it to fasting, it could be that first year of a business where, yeah, your excitement's gone away. You're still in takeoff mode because it's going to take you 2 years to get this thing into cruising altitude or 5 years. You look at a lot of businesses. When I relate this to business, it's like your 24 hours, the takeoff. Usually businesses don't get to cruising altitude for 5 to 10 years. And I think that's the difference. When I say this 24 hours, it is 5 to 10 years in the business, and then you're going to get to cruising altitude. We have this, Alex Ramosi talks about this too. I love referencing him, but the Rocky cut scene in the movie is 2 minutes, but in real life it's a year, 2 years. So we think that we're just going to get started and get through something really quickly, and that we're going to get through that phase, and then we're going to go out and conquer this. And the truth is, like, depending on what it is that you're doing, it's going to take 5 to 10 years. Financial journey, that takeoff, it's 5 to 10 years.
This is a fascinating principle that applies to like virtually everything in your life, right? Because they made that comment that, yes, it's easy to start. So I'm going to use a couple examples to illustrate this because it's a really, really cool thing to think about. So think about when you got in a relationship with Bree. The easiest time in that relationship was dating.
Oh, yeah.
Honeymoon.
Starting out.
Yep. Then you start hitting the bumps in the road where you're learning to live with each other, bad habits, maybe, you don't put the toilet seat up or whatever, right? You go through some uncomfortable stages. But if you push through that and you get through, let's say the first 5 years, then you start hitting cruise, altitude with the relationship. But then other obstacles come, whether that's kids. Then you start figuring out how do we discipline these kids together, and you have differences there. And so, but you learn along the way how to overcome those obstacles. So it literally translates to your relationship. It translates to business. It translates to fitness, setting goals for yourself in 2026. Literally every aspect of your life has this principle associated with it.
Yeah.
And the key is if you can get through and learn how to grow with, the first 2 to 5 years, or if, let's say fitness, like I'd even say you'd got to get through probably 6 months, of honeymoon stage of, man, I'm loving the gym. I'm loving fun. This gym's fun. It's the next thing to do to then become really consistent at it and seeing the results that you want to see.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks at a married couple who's been married for 50 years and it's bliss. They love being together. It's the cute story that you see all the time. But what happened in the years prior to that? Everyone looks at the business owner that has millions of dollars. What happened in the first, years leading up to that?
Yeah.
It's fitness guy. You look at a guy who's yoked. How did he get there? What did he have to go through the first couple years to get to that point? It's a pretty fascinating principle. It applies to everything.
It does. And to your point, like we basically, like when we're looking at outside perspectives, business, health, fitness, relationships, we basically just ignore the first struggle part. You look at the most success. Look at Elon. There's times when freaking Tesla was on days away from going into bankruptcy. Couldn't make payroll. Couldn't do this. He's sleeping on the floor at the warehouse. We look at where he's at now, but it's like, dude, even a successful company in a great idea like Tesla struggled to make happen. And I've realized that like every single business owner that I've talked to, like even the most successful companies, big teams, other things, like there is a financial struggle. Even if you think they're doing well, like the revenue looks good, they're bringing in, a few million a year. They haven't hit cruising altitude because they're still in that pain point of like the cash flow cycle is too long and they're still not profitable. They're reinvesting all of the capital back into the business because they need to grow more employees and manpower. And they just, Tesla, it might have taken 10 years for them to actually hit where they could be profitable and like we're cruising altitude financially. And we forget that. We just think that, I'm going to start it. We think that it's going to be different for me.
Right.
And it's not.
But never is.
Absolutely not. It's not going to be different from you. Health-wise, relationship-wise, financially, starting a business or investing, it is not going to be different for you. You are going to have to go through the same growing pains that anybody else did when they got started. And the ones that succeed they were just willing to go through the pain cycle. And the ones that don't succeed, the ones that aren't invested in the market, the ones that aren't starting businesses and stuff, they might have started, but they never went through the growing pains of it. They weren't willing to last. They couldn't survive it. And so they just restart something. And then when it gets hard, they leave and restart something else. And then when it gets hard, they just go through this same 6-month cycle, year cycle, 2-year cycle, and they never reach their potential because they just never are willing to stick something out.
Well, and it's interesting too, because like you take the fitness road, for example, the actual 50-pound weight doesn't get lighter. It doesn't become 40 pounds. It doesn't become 30 pounds. You just got stronger, and it seems easier. In a relationship, fights don't lower in drama or like anything. Like you just learn how to communicate and to handle that situation so that it feels and seems better the next time that struggle comes up. And in business, it doesn't get easier naturally to do business.
Yeah.
You just learn how to jump that hurdle through that process.
I love this. You just develop the skill.
Yep.
You just now have the skill to lift those weights.
And to go back to what we said before, the key there is consistency.
Yeah.
That's all. That's literally the magic sauce.
Consistency to develop the experience to gain the skills.
Yep.
And I think that's in everything. Like financial, you have to be consistent at investing to develop the skills to make those decisions to benefit from it. Relationships, business. It all goes back to that. And a lot of people just aren't willing to stay consistent enough to get the skills to really make those big swings. Right. And I struggle with that early on too. Like the amount of times I'd invest in like Bitcoin or little things that and it would be painful if it dropped a little bit. The pain, like I've sold. I'm like, dude, I used to own like 2 Bitcoin when it was at like 30 grand. And I, would have been really happy if I would have held, but I wasn't. I was in a place where I didn't want to go through that pain. So I just restart. And like, I think a lot of people, if they don't see the payoff right away, they're just going to restart into something new. And I think, you look at divorce rates in our current era, they're so high because it's like you get a little bit of struggle and it's really easy to just go do something else nowadays. And I think that's, it is the ease that we have created for ourselves that is really the problem for a lot of things. Like people didn't get divorced as much as they do nowadays because it was a difficult thing back in the day. And but now it's like, well, you can file for divorce really quick and break things off and off to the next one. And people just aren't willing to be uncomfortable anymore. Like when things get hard, they don't want to be uncomfortable. If they feel the discomfort, they avoid it and just go to the next thing. But it's like you have to find, I don't want to say joy because it's maybe never going to be joyful, but you have to be able to just be uncomfortable for a little bit.
It's such a good point because, again, like you're never going to develop, I'm going to keep going back to the 3, examples that we use with like fitness, relationship, and all that stuff. Like you're not going to get swole lifting 20 pounds only for the rest of your life. That's not the consistency that we're talking about. It's the consistency in the uncomfortable of pushing yourself. So that's how that applies to like fitness.
Yeah.
I'd say like relationship wise, it's not just learning to not talk to each other after a fight or, just
sweeping
it under the rug. It's learning how to have uncomfortable conversations to then learn and grow and develop. And that's how you get better in the relationship. And so to your divorce point, it gets to that point because people just aren't willing to look inward and change themselves because it's uncomfortable. And then they just sweep it under the rug until the next fight. And then that happens. Business, same thing. I can't just expect that I'm going to be successful doing 10 transactions a year as a real estate agent and be comfortable with that. To grow as a business owner, I've got to be uncomfortable and push for more.
Yeah.
You can be happy with where you're at and the progress you're making, but always in the back of your mind needing to grow.
Growth is what we need as humans.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything in life is either growing or dying.
Yep.
Your business is either growing or dying. Nothing stays constant.
No.
So like your relationship is either growing or dying. Your business, your finances, they're either growing or they're dying, especially with inflation. Mm-hmm. Like they're either growing or they're not growing, they're dying. And if you take that approach to everything, and I think that's where, personally, like I was kind of comfortable the last few years. Mm-hmm. Like we'd kind of just been coasting and like, but then it's really hit me this year. It's like, dude, you either everything is growing or dying. You either need to decide to grow or your business or your finances or whatever is going to start dying. You can't I think we think when we talk about financial freedom, we think that it's when I hit this, everything is going to be fine and I can just not have to worry about growing anymore. No, it's like when you hit these certain numbers financially, life actually gets a little bit more complicated because now you're like, well, where do I need to have this? You have more to lose. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, where do I get the best return? But I also have my risk hedged a little bit because I don't want this to get cut in half. Like, it's not that life just becomes super simple. Billionaires, multimillionaires, they have problems. They're just different problems. So you're never going to get to this, like, I think this destination of just bliss. Mm-hmm. And even if you do, you hit this financial number and it's like you're on the beach sipping margaritas and not having to worry because maybe you're in secure assets and it's pulling off cash flow. Awesome. But you're still going to want to grow. You're only going to want to do that for so long before your body, our human nature is like, we need to feel growth. We need to feel productive. And so I think if you just feel comfortable, like, hey, my life, like, enjoy the journey. Life is there's always going to be struggles, problems, but that is what makes us, that means we're alive.
Right.
The only people that don't have problems are the people that are dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, who cares what their credit score is?
Right.
Who cares what's invested? Like, they don't need to worry about it anymore. But you should be, if you don't have problems, you're probably on the verge of dying.
Right.
So you should be like, this is a problem. If you just switch your mindset to like, that seems hard, that seems difficult, this is a problem. It's like, great, that means I'm alive. Mm-hmm. And I have an opportunity to grow if I'm willing to go learn or do this difficult thing. And so I think it's just that mindset shift of, I think people can tell you that money doesn't solve your problems, and you won't believe it until you actually have money and realize that it doesn't solve your problems. It makes some problems easier to get rid of. Mm-hmm. And I would never say that, like, I don't think that somebody's ever regretted having money, but to think that, like, if I just go make more money, I'm going to be happy, you'll realize that when you make more money, it's just not the case. So you need to figure out, like, going back to, like, I think you need to protect yourself and have, the only way for you to actually enjoy things that you're passionate about are to not have the burden of worrying about your financial situation. Mm-hmm. So when you can't go enjoy a round of golf or other activities that you like or want to do a podcast if in the back of your head you're like, well, how am I, you're trying to survive. How am I going to pay for food or my mortgage this month?
Right.
It becomes a lot easier to enjoy life when you get rid of your necessity burdens financially. And so that's why I push financial freedom. And financial freedom can mean so many different things for so many different people. We've had people on the podcast that, like, he's like, if I can make $5,000 a month, like, I will be financially free because I drive a paid off car. I live in a townhome. Like, we don't need to live an extravagant life. But if they hit their financial freedom number, that's going to allow them to just focus on doing the things that they do enjoy doing in life. And whether they bring them money or not, like, a lot of people are just never going to get to their passions because they're never going to get out of the rat race of, I got to make my car payment. Well, it goes back to the very beginning of this is like, dude, if you just were willing to be uncomfortable, and I'm going to use Jace as a great example. Like, when you first joined the team, you drove a Raptor. It's a nice truck. People respect that truck.
I miss that truck.
Jason misses that truck. But you were willing to get uncomfortable and buy a smaller car that was better on gas, you could drive around, to get you in a better financial position. And that was a journey that took, I mean, you sold the truck 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
It's almost been 2 years.
And it's like this year, earlier last year, you got debt free. You bought a nice house for you and your family. Like, you're seeing the benefits of that. But it wasn't I sold my truck, I'm going to be financially better now. It's like, well, that was a step towards the financial freedom that you want in the next 10 years.
Right.
But people aren't willing to see that 10-year vision and I just want to like shake them. And it's like, it's the same thing with the gym. It's like going into the gym 1 month in, month two, or like month 1, month 2, you're not going to see the results, but you're doing the activities so that in 2 to 3 years, you're going to see the results. And I'm really trying to be a lot more disciplined with my health and fitness. Cause I'm like, at the end of the day, I can have all the money in the world when I'm 50, but if I can't run or do anything, what's the point? Right? Like, you can't enjoy life. So now I've taken that into like, that's become a big priority of mine. I've started running a ton. And just in running, like when you say, the 50-pound weight doesn't become lighter. I think about when I'm running, like, dude, running 3, 5, 10 miles used to kill me. And it's not,
the mileage didn't decrease.
Yeah, the mileage is now, it's the same mileage that I'm running, but I have the skills now because I've been consistent with it. And all it is consistency. Like, I just kept running. I'd run 3 miles. Like, we did a month where we ran like 100 miles in that month. So I was running like 3 miles a day roughly. Mm-hmm. But now, just from being consistent, like, dude, I can go run 15, 16 miles on a weekend and feel great and still go out and enjoy the rest of my day. Like, I remember the first time I ran a half marathon, I cramped up like mile 10, and the last 3 miles I'm like freaking hobbling. And I was out for like 3 days. Like, I couldn't do anything. But just being consistent over an extended period of time gives you the skill set and the ability to go do that thing. And it's not that it's easier, but it feels easier because you have better skills. Right. You're better. And I think that's with everything in life. And so I'm like, if you're listening to this, no matter what it is, business, relationships, finances, if you are just consistently making progress in that direction, it is going to be easier. Mm-hmm. You're eventually going to hit cruising altitude. But if every time it gets uncomfortable, you stop, you will never hit cruising altitude. You will never really find your purpose. You'll never really find, enjoyment in whatever you're doing, because it's always just going to feel hard and you're always just going to be restarting that cycle. Yeah. So I wanted to, we kind of went off on a pretty big tangent here.
So it's good.
It's good. This wasn't what I had planned for this podcast at all. But I think it was a good conversation. One thing I'm going to share this, and I think I want to get more in depth on this in our next podcast episode.
Okay.
One thing I've been super passionate about right now and like just nerding out on is like inflation and how to hedge yourself against inflation. And so that's something I really want to, I did a presentation for like our local real estate group here just a few weeks ago. And I think everybody there thought it was super impactful. So that's something I want to share on this, probably on our next podcast, but I'm going to share something that our good friend, Robert Kiyosaki, we talked about him earlier.
The man.
He's a little crazy, but he's very knowledgeable, very smart. He's changed a lot of people's lives financially. But he shared this on Facebook on December 23rd. I saved it in my notes. And this is the caption that he wrote. The next financial collapse won't be loud. It will feel like everyone is tired all the time. People are waiting for the next crash to look like 2008. big headlines, market panic, banks collapsing overnight. That's not what this one looks like. This collapse is quiet. It feels like exhaustion. People are working more hours, earning more on paper, and somehow falling further behind. That's not normal. That's a signal. In past crashes, systems broke loudly. Today, systems are breaking slowly, cushioned by debt, credit cards, buy now, pay later, student loans, auto financing. Debt doesn't solve problems. It delays pain. And delayed pain doesn't disappear. It compounds. That's why this collapse feels dramatic. It feels like permanent stress, no financial margin, 2 incomes barely surviving, no time to recover, no upside, just maintenance. People aren't panicking, they're worn down. That's more dangerous. When people panic, they act. When people are exhausted, they comply. They swipe again, they borrow more, they work harder. The system keeps extracting quietly. This is how modern collapses happen. Not with breadlines, with subscriptions, with minimum payments, with endless obligations. In Germany, inflation was obvious. Wheelbarrows of cash, money burned for heat. People knew something was wrong. Today, inflation hides behind financing. Prices rise, but payments look manageable. So people accept it until one day they realize they've been running nonstop and they still haven't gone anywhere. That's the trap. Collapse doesn't require chaos. It requires no recovery. No savings rebuilt, no debt reduced, no breathing room restored. Just continuous effort with diminishing returns. That's what you're feeling. And here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. This isn't temporary. This is what a debt-based system looks like in its late stages. The economy isn't crashing, it's compressing. And compression breaks people long before it breaks markets. That's why financial education matters now more than ever. Because the people who survive this cycle won't be the ones who work harder. They'll be the ones who stop playing a game designed to wear them out. The next collapse won't announce itself. It already feels like burnout. Oof.
It's impressive.
I got like chills going through that because it's so true. And I look at all the problems we're facing now. Like, it's true. Everything's gone up in pricing. A dual income household is barely surviving. Mm-hmm. People feel like they're making good money. And at the end of every year, they're like, where did the money go? And I think so many people, like, this time of year is the best time to analyze. How much money did you make last year? How much money do you have saved now? Mm-hmm. How much money have you invested over last year? People are going to look and be like, man, I made 160, 180 grand. And what do I have to save for it? I'm in the same financial position I was last year. And I think if that doesn't change, you're just going to be doing that over and over and over again. And so I'm like, you've got to sit down and you've got to take the time. Beginning of the year, it's New Year. You're still only 2 weeks into this year. Sit down if you haven't already. Sit down with your spouse. Go through what your annual income was, your household income. How much have you increased your net worth or decreased your net worth? And what is the strategy for this year going to be? Because if you don't change, if you don't have a game plan, nothing's going to change. You're going to be in the same place next year. And I think it's going to get harder and harder to get out of that hole. Right now, the hole is still a little bit manageable. Like, you can crawl out of the hole. But if you keep pushing that off and years go by, you are going to get to a point where it's going to feel like you can't get out of that hole. And time is going to be working against you. And so I can't stress it enough. I want to dive more into that in our next episode because there's so much I want to talk about with inflation and cost of living and the importance of hedging yourself against that. Like, if you just look at the dollar devaluation over the last 5 years, it's sickening. So it's not the goal is not to save cash because that's not the safe way. The goal is to figure out how to get invested into the markets, into real estate, into hard assets. And I don't care what it is that you invest in, but I just want you to not get left behind.
And I think that's, we want to develop a community in something like with this for selfish reasons because we want to have the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
but it's also crucial. Like, it's critical for your life to be surrounded by people who want it, who are in the same mind of wanting to get out of that. Because you are who you hang out with. 100%. You are who you surround yourself with. And so if you're surrounded with like-minded people who are hell-bent on getting out of that hole and are understanding what's happening and go into it together, it becomes easier.
100%.
And so this community is selfish because we want it, but it's also critical. And so like that's why I think it's crucial for us this year.
Yeah.
To develop a community with this.
I want it. I've talked so much to like Bree. I'm like, I think I'm going to sell my truck. She's like, why? And I'm like, because not that I need to, but I'm like, I kind of want to just drive an old beater. You know, I kind of want to be that guy now. I used to not like, be like, oh, that guy's driving a bad, beat up truck. Now I want to be that guy. We've met some people, we're flipping houses and stuff. And some of the, we'll get investors into our projects. And meeting some of these investors, dude, it is mind blowing. Like, whether you've read the book Millionaire Next Door, it talks about, like most multimillionaires drive Toyota Corollas or Toyota Avalons or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're the most unsuspecting people. And it's so true. Usually the guys that like I know are making good money, you hit them up for an investment, it's like they have no cash. They can't. They don't have $100,000 to their name. They have $300,000 worth of cars in their driveway, but they don't have an extra $100,000-$200,000 that they can put into a project. And that blows my mind. And then I meet this one guy, I'm not going to say his name or anything, but super successful, owns tons of houses, makes really good money. And he's over here like, he drives a beat up car, has a small house, a house where he doesn't even have a garage on his house, but he has multi-millions in the bank.
That's awesome.
And just ready to invest in stuff. He's like, yeah, let me know when you guys have a bigger project. I want to, I've got X amount of money that I want to put into a bigger project. I'm like, you just got to, okay. Yeah. I mean, why don't you have a better car? Like, but they don't care. Right. And I really respect that, mm-hmm. because basically what they're saying is like, they don't care what society thinks about them. They're just on their own journey, and he can do whatever he wants. And so I think that's the hardest thing for people is like, well, what are people going to think of me if I take a step backwards? What are people going to think of me? I mean, I think about like, what are people going to think if I sell my truck? Are they going to think I'm struggling financially? That kind of makes me excited. Like, I don't know. Let's see. Like,
see how society reacts a little bit.
Yeah. Like I really don't care. I don't have anything to prove.
Right.
But I think we struggle so much in that. It's like that with clothing, with accessories, with vehicles, with houses. It's always like, a lot of it's like because of what we think people are going to think of us when we have that.
And it's the wrong reason.
Oh, it's the terrible reason.
If you want the truck because you want the truck,
yeah.
and you can, it's a good thing for you. You can financially afford it.
Yeah.
More power to you.
Yeah.
If you want the truck because you think it's going to impress people or
make you happy.
Or make you happy or give you more business or whatever, like it doesn't.
No. Brendan actually just tried to call me, one of my good friends, and I'm going to put him on blast here on the podcast because Brendan is really frugal and he makes good money and he's smart financially. I'm not going to bag him that way. He invests, he's ready to, he's good, but he is impulsive where like he'll buy those. He bought a Raptor. He's probably bought 5 trucks in the last 5 years. But he literally told me, he's like, he was just kind of depressed and like feeling down. So he went and bought a truck thinking that was going to make him happy. And it did make him happy for the first like few weeks. And now we talk about it, he's owned it for probably almost a year now. And he's like, I don't know. Like, it's just another truck. Yeah. And he's like, next time I feel that way, I need to call you and not just go buy a truck.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, now he regrets it. And not that he can't afford it. He can afford it, but it is that like, I bought my truck because it was my dream truck. Like I had always wanted a Raptor when I was young, and I'm like, those are cool. I bought it, and it was the worst financial decision I've ever made. I will gladly admit that. I had just bought a new car the year before, a new truck. I'd wanted the Raptor, but it was during the craziness of 2020. Mm-hmm. They didn't have any in stock. but I needed a tax write-off at the end of that year. And so I was planning to get a new truck regardless. So I bought a new truck. It was an F-150. It was a great looking truck. And on that same day, I pre-ordered the Raptor, thinking that like, I'm just going to come in like, next year. So I depreciate that truck on my taxes. The next year, because I traded in for the Raptor when it got here, I had to reclaim any of that depreciation. And I can also depreciate the Raptor too. So it's like, it wasn't a big deal. But when I went back after I did it, my CPA at the end of the next year after I bought the Raptor was like, hey, can you get your interest payments and stuff for the previous truck? Because we're going to have to recalculate some stuff. It's like, yeah, I was like, I can't remember what my interest payment or my interest was on that truck. I went back. I had bought that truck with 0% interest. And I traded it, and this sounds terrible. Again, worst financial decision. I'm not opposed to getting debt on vehicles. This was bad debt because like interest rates at the time when I got the Raptor, when it came in, were at like 7%.
Oof.
And so I'm like, dude, am I a freak? I traded in a 0% interest rate truck to get a Raptor that's basically the same truck that just has like bigger tires and a better suspension system and pay a 7% interest rate on that if I didn't want to pay cash. Like it was not a smart financial decision. So, and now that I'm talking more about smart financial decisions, I'm just like, maybe I love driving the truck. It's so comfortable, but I am kind of like, now I'm like, maybe I told Braden I want to find like a 1995 bench seat truck in the front. And I'm just gonna have like a little beater that I can drive around.
Stick shift.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go automatic. I'm not that gung ho. I don't want to be driving a manual around town. But yeah, I don't know. I think even for me, I'm like, man, dude, I probably upgraded my life a little bit quicker than I should have. I could have. Most people do.
Yep.
And luckily, we're still in a great spot. But now I'm like reflecting on some of this, and I'm like, dude, none of it really matters. None of it really makes me happy. I look at friends that have huge houses and stuff. It's just more work. Like you really got to decide what makes you happy. And now I'm really dialing into what is it that makes me happy, and using my money to buy the things that actually bring me happiness. Whether that's using my money to not have to work on Wednesdays and I can go to breakfast with my daughter, get a massage, enjoy creative things for me. Like that is cool. I'd rather spend my money doing that than I got a new truck, Right. So anyway, that's what we hope we can help you guys all get to too. And hopefully you just come along the journey. Neither one of us here are perfect. We're not saying that we're, in any kind of way, shape, or form where we want to be. But I think the more we can have real, organic, true conversations and share what's going on, hopefully can help those out there too. So
I'm excited for 2026, man.
It's going to be fun.
This is going to be a good one.
If you want to be a part of this community that we're steaming up, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. We'd love to get a little group together. No obligations, just maybe going out to dinner and having good conversations. So
good stuff.
All right. Till next time. We'll catch you guys later.
To the chase where the champions dwell, to the grind, to the hustle, the pursuit of wealth. Every story, every journey, every climb from the shelf. Here's to the drive, to the fight, to pursue